It's day 38 and I hit a big void in my schedule. I guess as y'all saw, I'm not dead, made me feel almost dead by last Friday, but I was I guess kind of out of town. I wasn't at home, I could tell you that. It wasn't far, but we were just staying there in a little shack on the job site. And I didn't have any way to upload videos, so I thought, well, this is a problem. Even making a little video, it didn't want to upload it. But service out there isn't super duper. But I don't know. What do you do? And I'll tell you what you do, because I've read through the Bible a few times. When something happens and you get a week behind, you pick up right where you were and you keep on trucking. And that's just what you have to do. Now, my reading hasn't had to stop, but my videos had to stop. And I could jump ahead to where I am now. I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to just go ahead and go back to where we were. I know so many people were days behind, and I can see by the activity online that many of y'all have caught up just in the last few days. So, you know what? Day 38. Numbers 25 through 28. So, you've probably already read it. So, what about it? Well, 25, that was a sin of Peor. I don't know if you remembered in the last video what I talked about, and about this Balaam dude. And the Balaam dude seems all right. He talks with God, and, he can correspond with God, and he can curse and bless, and he would seem all right, but we learn more about him and behind the scenes, and no, he wasn't all right. He knew who God was. He knew very clearly who God was. But, hey, demons also believe and tremble. Now, I don't know what his relationship with God was, but he wasn't doing right. And in fact, 25, the sin of Peor, we later learned, if you read carefully, and that's the value of reading all of Scripture, the full counsel of God. You read carefully, you find out that it was Balaam that gave the instruction to entice the Israelite men with the Moabite women. And it worked. And we saw with what fierce indignation God had against the sin, and he was pleased when the priest went in and ran them both through with a spear at one time. And, it kind of gives you an idea. And I think we're tempted to think that God doesn't have a fierce opposition to sin like that today. But yes, he does. And he will unleash his wrath someday on sin at the judgment, And so it's something to think about. We live in a little period of grace, the church age, in which we can receive by grace salvation through faith. But don't think that God's a friend to sin at all. But so then, let's see, there was that. The other thing I thought was neat over in chapter 27 was, God, some people think that, God's a misogynist, that he's sexist or something. And with the relationship and the associations and the authority that he's placed on the man over the woman. But, they don't get it. People who think like that don't get it. What they fail to realize is that God's entire, illustration between men and women, between a man and a woman, between a husband and his wife, is for an illustration of him and the church. And so, that's why it messes things up. Is God partial to men? Absolutely not. When it came down to the issues of inheritance, and hey, we didn't have a father, and what do? Well, God said, well, you ladies get to inherit the land. And besides that, any other ladies in your situation get to inherit the land. God is not some sexist pig. God is a man who is trying to illustrate his relationship to the world through a husband and a wife. Now, listen, if the wife was the authority over the husband or co-authority to the husband, in some ways she is, but would that properly illustrate Christ in the church? No, it wouldn't. So we just really got to get over ourselves and what we think we're entitled to, in the role. You know what we're like? We're like a kid in the high school one-act play that doesn't like the role he was given. Listen, accept your role and live it out for the purpose of the play, for the purpose of the message. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing at all whatsoever inferior about being a woman. Now, okay, enough of that. I'm at 4:36. I need to move on. The passing of the baton from Moses to Joshua. And listen, this isn't a unique situation. We see this situation throughout Scripture where there's a mentor and a mentee and a passing of the baton in ministry And honestly, I feel like that's the way it should be today. Sadly, so many of our churches hire ministers like they would a CEO or somebody like that, or a manager. And there is no passing of the baton in ministry. There is no mentorship. There is nothing like that. You know, that's why Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary was alarmed years ago when I was there attending, that over half of their MDiv students were no longer in the ministry after 5 years. That's no wonder with the kind of business-minded system we have. And it is most desirable, the best situation in ministry is when there's a Moses pastoring a church and he has time to disciple and to mentor a younger man or another man in the ministry and to pass off that ministry to him. That was Moses's concern. God, who's going to pastor these people? That was what it was on his heart. And that's what God had already put on Joshua's heart. That's God's way. I don't care. You can go to any book in the Bible. You can look at it. You know, God does not intend for his church to be run like a business where you turn in a resume that hails all your strong points and your strengths and whatever, whatever. Are you called by God to do this job? That's a big thing. So, hey, listen, before I get on any more rants and all that stuff, Numbers is a great book. Deuteronomy's coming up, which is even more better, it's super duper. But great narratives, and I hope y'all don't mind. I'm going to try to make little bitty tiny videos and text them to Jennifer and then get Jennifer to load them up so we can keep this rascal rolling. I think most of y'all are caught up, and we're just going to get back on track and keep going. So my apologies, but whatever. I live in a realistic world and work for a living. So we'll see y'all. Bye.